There is a specific kind of frustration that does not have a name in most fitness content. It is not the frustration of someone who has not started yet. It is a frustration of someone who has done everything. The deficit, the workouts, the cleaner eating, the more sleep, the less alcohol, the more steps, and is still standing in front of a mirror wondering what is missing. Not what she is doing wrong, she has already ruled that out. She is doing it right. The question is why doing it right is not enough. That question has an answer. Several, actually, and none of them are about discipline, willpower, or trying harder. They're about biology, specific mechanisms that most fat loss advice either gets wrong or never mentions at all. This video covers 4 of them. By the end, you will not just know what to do differently, you will understand exactly why it works. And that understanding changes everything, because you stop guessing and start making decisions that are actually connected to the result. If this is the first time something about your body finally made sense, that feeling is exactly what this channel is built on. There is a lot more of it here. Subscribe so you do not miss what comes next. Part 1. The problem is not your body, it is the instruction manual. The foundational research on fat loss, how the body stores it, releases it, burns it, was conducted almost entirely on male subjects. This is not a conspiracy, it is a methodological convenience that became an industry standard. The menstrual cycle introduces hormonal variability into research data. Variability is expensive to control for, so researchers excluded it. They studied men, published the results, and the fitness industry packaged those results and sold them to women. What this means in practice, the calorie targets, the training protocols, the recovery recommendations, the macro splits, most of them were built on data from a body that does not have a menstrual cycle, does not experience monthly hormonal shifts, and does not carry the same receptor distribution in its fat tissue. Following that advice precisely is not the same as following advice built for your body. And when the result does not appear, the industry's explanation is that you did not follow it consistently enough. That explanation protects the protocol. It does not help you. Part 2. Why some fat is harder to release than others. Fat cells are not passive containers that release their contents whenever a deficit exists. They respond to hormonal signals, and how readily they respond depends on the type of receptor they carry. There are 2 types. Beta receptors act quickly. When the signal to release fat arrives, they respond, and the fat moves. Alpha receptors are different. Think of them as a slow valve on a pipe. The signal arrives, the permission is there, the deficit is real, but the valve only opens part way. The release is dramatically slower than it would be from beta-dominant tissue. Women carry a higher density of alpha receptors in specific areas, the hips, the thighs, the lower abdomen. Not everywhere. In other areas, beta receptors dominate and fat releases normally. But in those particular regions, the biology is working against a fast response. Not because anything is wrong, because those areas were designed, over tens of thousands of years of evolution, to hold energy in reserve for reproductive function. This is the part nobody tells you. You can be in a real deficit, the training can be exactly right, and certain areas will still be the last to respond, not because you are failing, but because the receptor distribution is doing precisely what it was built to do. There is no exercise that changes this. What changes it is time, consistency, and, more than anything, not interpreting the slowness as failure and abandoning the process before those areas catch up. Part 3. Fat loss is not 1 step, it is 2, and most approaches only complete the first. This is the mechanism that almost no fat loss content explains, and it is the one that makes the most difference once you understand it. When your body receives the signal to burn fat through a calorie deficit, through training, through the hormonal environment that makes fat release possible, 2 things need to happen in sequence. First, lipolysis. The fat stored in the cell breaks apart and enters the bloodstream as free fatty acids. This is what most people think of as fat burning, but it is only the release. Second, oxidation. Those free fatty acids have to be taken up and burned as fuel, primarily by muscle tissue. This is the step where the fat is actually gone. Here is the critical part. Fat that gets released but not oxidized does not disappear. It gets reabsorbed. It goes back into storage. The release was real, the result was not. Think of it like opening a window to air out a room. The stale air starts to move, but if there is nothing pulling it out the other side, it just circulates and settles back in. Lipolysis opens the window. Muscle tissue is what pulls the air through. Without enough of it, the fat moves, but it does not leave. This is why muscle tissue is not optional when the goal is fat loss. Muscle is where oxidation happens. The more of it you have, and the more you are actively building and maintaining it, the larger your capacity to complete that second step. Cardio creates the conditions for lipolysis. Resistance training builds the engine that makes oxidation possible. Without both, the process starts but does not finish. And timing matters. For women specifically, the window during which muscle tissue is primed to repair and adapt after training closes within approximately 45 minutes of finishing the session. Eating 20 to 30 grams of complete protein in that window does not interfere with fat loss. It determines whether the session produces the muscle adaptation that makes fat loss sustainable. After that window closes, the repair process slows. The training happened. The result from it is smaller than it should have been.
Part 4. Your body will not change in conditions it reads as a threat. This is the part that explains why the women who push hardest are often the ones who see the slowest results. Your nervous system is continuously assessing one question: is the environment safe enough to spend resources? Fat loss is expensive, muscle building is expensive, recovery is expensive, and the system does not distinguish between the kind of threat you are consciously aware of and the kind that arrives biochemically without a name. Each of these sends a signal. Chronic undereating, food is scarce. Chronic overtraining, the body is under sustained attack. Persistent stress, the environment is unstable. Poor sleep, the system cannot fully repair itself. All four arrive at the same place and produce the same response: slow down, conserve, protect what is already here. Fat loss stops, muscle repair slows, the metabolism pulls back to guard what it has. This is not a mindset problem. It is not a motivation problem. It is a system reading its inputs and responding logically. A body that is underslept, underfueled, and overstressed is not a body that feels safe enough to spend energy on changing. It is a body in management mode, doing exactly what a threatened system is supposed to do. The women who see the most consistent results over time are not the ones who pushed through all of that. They are the ones who trained in a way their nervous system read as sustainable. Consistent stimulus, adequate recovery, enough food to signal that scarcity was not the operating condition. Hard training inside a recovered, well-fueled body produces results. The same training inside a depleted, overstressed body produces fatigue and stalls. Your body is not your enemy. It is responding logically to the information you are giving it. Change the information, and the response changes. These four mechanisms, biased research, receptor distribution, the two-step fat loss process, and nervous system state, are not independent problems. They are a system, and most fat loss advice addresses none of them, which is why most fat loss advice eventually stops working. The one thing to change this week: eat within 45 minutes of every training session, 20 to 30 grams of protein, something with it. Not because it is a magic window, because it is the specific moment where the adaptation from that session either gets built or gets lost. Start there. Everything else compounds from it. This channel goes much deeper. The structure, the nutrition, the recovery, all of it connected, all of it built for this body. Subscribe and come back. There is a lot here that was made for exactly where you are.